conversation with some teenagers recently, some boys who were talking about how much of a struggle it is with gaming and how they feel like they don't have the control over their gaming impulses that they would like. They actually were feeling like, and one in particular, that he has a condition where gaming is really difficult to manage. And he's done something to himself and to his brain to where this is now a challenge that he carries in his life. And I was thinking a lot about that, what that means for a teenager to feel like they don't have control, that this is something outside of them that is taking over and leading them to live a life that is more impulsive, but also compulsive, where there is a desire, a pattern, a habit that now compels behavior. Instead of a person being an agent for themselves, they are an object and they're just being used and they don't have the power to really control it. It's pretty heartbreaking. And it was interesting listening to these two teenage boys, and they're saying how when they're grown up and they're dads, they're not going to let their kids have iPads, they're not going to let their kids have devices, and they're going to make sure that gaming is a family activity, not an individual obsession. And so, what do we do? How do we prevent that from happening? How do we prevent a teenager saying, "This is a condition that I have, and now I can't avoid it." And I think he didn't mean like I'm doomed, but I think he saw it as this is now something that I'm going to have to face for the rest of my life. This impulse, this compulsion to want to game and spend hours and hours gaming. So I wanted to suggest that we use this cycle, the cognitive behavioral cycle called the thought cycle diagram, that I have developed because it helps us to understand the whole connection between our thinking, our feelings, our behavior, our nervous system state, the results that we're living with. How does it come about? And if we're thinking about children, helping them to prevent screen addiction, we need to get to the root. We got to get to the root of it. Okay, yes, gaming is addicting. It creates habits and compulsion and can channel someone's attention to be like, I need to be gaming. I need to go play my game. I need to have this. I can't go without it. I have had another client who is a young adult, and he was saying how asked him, but you could live without gaming. Like you could live. Your heart beats and your lungs breathe. You don't have to have gaming for those functions that keep you alive. And he really stopped and was like, I don't know. I said, you could live without it. It doesn't keep you alive. But there, with that past history, that experience of ongoing screen use, overuse, misuse, leading to addiction, boy, it's really hard for the person who's in that habit to see their life without it, to see how they could live and function and be without their screens that they're used to having. And as a mom, I'm a mother of 6. My name is Michelle Cox. I'm a life coach in East Texas. I work with kids, I work with adults, and my whole aim is to help people to see their potential to make changes in their lives, no matter what their habit is, no matter what the pattern has been, the home they grew up in, the home they're in now, the circumstances of their lives. They can find that inner strength, the ability to think and feel and behave differently and have a different result. So if we don't want children to become addicted to screens, it's a lot more than just setting limits, which needs to happen. A child becoming addicted is not a child problem, it's a parent problem. And when we look around today and we sit at a basketball game or we're at the restaurant waiting for our food, we're on an airplane, we're anywhere, we're in a grocery store, we are seeing very young children on a device, and they're not being given the opportunity to interact with the world around them. They're not given an opportunity to look and learn from their parents how to go about living life, making a transaction, choosing food items, which one has a better price, making those comparisons, making a budget, like finding out where, finding things on the shopping list and fulfilling your shopping order. Children are not learning that. They're not able to watch and learn and observe from their parents when they're on a screen. And there's a lot of problems with that. So we see the rates of ADHD, the rates of anxiety in elementary school age children is just skyrocketing. It's not a kid problem. This is a parent problem. And it's not just about parents not setting healthy limits. It's the parent being driven by a fear. And that's what I want to talk about today. What is that fear, or that unpleasant experience, the unpleasant thought maybe, or different thoughts that might be contributing to this? And that's what I want to look at. So in this cycle, we can start with a result. Okay, we've got a child who has a screen addiction. We want to avoid that, but let's see what's leading to it. What's the cause? It's not just a lack of limits. There's a parent behaving a certain way so that children don't have limits, and children are allowed and fed addictive patterns and encouraged and endorsed, and without without there being a parent who's stepping in and setting a boundary. Why is that? There's a reason for it and we're going to try to discover that and uncover it. I don't know if I have all the answers, but using this diagram can help us to start to explore the possibilities. And that's something I love as a life coach, looking at possibilities. There's not just one way that things are happening. There's not just one answer, one solution, one cause, one problem, one tragic mistake. There's always several things. We're very complex beings. There's several things in our lives that can converge and make a situation happen. So it's not just one thing, but this is one way that we can explore what are the influences? What are possible causes? What are possible ways that this is happening? So let's explore that together. Up here in this cloud is where we write a circumstance. Circumstances are totally neutral. They only have meaning at either good or bad or harmful or not harmful or benign until we think about it, discern whether we instinctively feel that this is something that is good, bad, neutral. Okay, but until then, it's already neutral. And it stays neutral until we have a thought about it. So here I'm going to put smart devices. They exist. And the nice thing is, there are children in the world who have no access to smart devices. They might be extremely impoverished, extremely isolated. They don't even know they exist. There are parts of the world where that could possibly be the truth. They are not being influenced by smart devices. They don't have an opinion about them. They don't know about them. So that helps us to see, like, this really is a neutral thing until we start to interact with it. And it starts with our thinking and our nervous system responding. So first of all, smart devices. They're just there. If every smart device in the world just sat on a table, just laid on a table somewhere, not being touched, not being used, being ignored, they would have zero power and influence. It is our thinking about it and our opening ourselves up to the dopamine, the desires, the things that are going to create a habit. But otherwise, they're just neutral, just sitting there, not doing anything. So we have children, very young, babies, toddlers, having access to iPads, tablets, old phones. I see that a lot. Parents giving their toddlers old phones. Parent gets a new phone, then they just give that old one to their toddler, their baby, to occupy them, while they're watching a game or they're in line somewhere. They're going to drive 10 minutes from school to home. They've got to have that tablet in their hands. You see that a lot. Why is this happening? Let's take a look. So the result that we're trying to avoid, but we have to explore it, we have to look at it, we have to face it, okay, is addiction. Screen, and I'll say dependency, because that can incorporate dependency. Sorry if I spell things wrong. When I write and I talk at the same time, interesting spelling happens. So it's all right. So screen dependency or addiction. Okay, so addiction is like much worse. That would be more towards maybe this client who is saying, well, live, like function, my heart rate beating without gaming. I don't know. I think that helps me to be alive. So that's where the brain has gotten so used to it. But we're talking about children, not young adults, but children. How do we avoid them becoming addicted or dependent? And yeah, so we have behaviors happening for a child to become screen dependent or addicted. And then without that access while at school, we're seeing ADHD, we're seeing anxiety because there's a separation from the device that they're becoming so dependent on. The brain is saying, this is danger, this is danger, this is danger. I don't have my device. I should have it. I need it. I want it. I have to have it right now. It's very similar to drug use or alcohol use or tobacco products. It's painful and heartbreaking when someone says, I can't come to this family event because I won't be able to smoke there and I can't go that long without smoking. Okay, these are real situations that I'm aware of. And we want to see how children's brains are forming to rely on and need the screens. But why are they doing that? Okay, yes, there's not limits. But why are there no limits? That's what needs to come here. We're talking about the parents' brains in this cycle. What are the parents' brains doing that is creating this problem? So decision action, what's the behavior that's leading to a screen dependency or an addiction? And yeah, so there's overuse. And how do we define overuse? Well, I know the American Academy of Pediatrics, they have recommendations that they've been able to do through studies, through research, through observing patients. And they're saying, keep it to a minimum, like an hour a day, for depending on the age. But I want to talk about really young children right now because they have the most malleable brain, the most critical development stage. So I'm thinking like toddlers up to 5 years old, around that. And so what's happening is when parents are just handing them a phone, a tablet, some sort of device to keep them quiet, then children are becoming more and more wired to need it and want it and expect it, and then to be upset or even anxious and having anxiety without their device in their hands when they want it all the time. So overuse of devices by children would lead to a screen dependency. If a child is not using it, they're not going to have a dependency. They're not going to have any sort of habit or brain wiring to desire it and to feel that desire that is intense. Not just, I want to do that, that would be fun, but like, I need it right now and I'm lost without it. And that's anxiety that really disrupts a child's ability to learn, because their brain is like, but where is it? But where is it? I need it. It's at home, but I want it right now. And they don't know how to maybe articulate that when they're in school. They can't necessarily connect that dot. They're in school, they're supposed to be learning, they're supposed to be working on a math assignment or a science project, in elementary school, and they can't stay focused because their brain is like, but I need to get back. I need to get on my game. And so that's where there's some disruption for their education. All right, so that's another concern, right? But I really want to focus on the dependency. So overuse of device, that's the only way you can become truly addicted to something or dependent, is by using it, the repetition. And for some, for some people, they can take their first cigarette, they can have their first drink, and they're hooked right away. We know that. We know people, probably loved ones. Yes, I have friends, I have family members. That first drink, that first cigarette was it. They're totally hooked. Think about that. It's possible for a child to have the same possible um, addictive tendency, and you don't know. You don't know until you do it. So that's one of the big fears. You don't know how vulnerable you are until you've used it, you've tried it, and now it's in there, and your brain's like, "Oh yeah, give me that again." And dopamine, you're getting a really concentrated dose. Dopamine is a neurochemical that makes you want to have more. It doesn't bring a feeling of satiety. You're not done. You're not fulfilled. You're not like, well, that was enough. Good. No, it's like, that was great. Give me more. That was great. Give me more. And then you need a bigger dose to have the same feeling, the same hit, the same high in some way. So children being wired to need a device, to need that dopamine hit from gaming, from watching, from scrolling, and their brain is getting used to that, they need it, then we're having a similar effect that adults talk about when it comes to alcohol, drugs, vaping, cigarettes, tobacco use. So it's a process of using it over and over and over that creates that dependency. But it could be just once that gets it really started in that direction. Now, emotions are a big fuel for how we behave. And I want to talk about this from parents' perspective, like I said earlier. What is a parent thinking? What is a parent feeling? And so that they would just hand over devices all the time, over and over. From the first second the child is up, they get to turn on a kid's YouTube so that they can keep them calm while they're eating breakfast and parents are doing whatever they need to do to get ready. But they're not interacting with their kids, and the child is developing that dependency. So overuse of device, this is parents handing it out. Okay, so what are the parents? Let me say overuse of devices by children, and this is parents handing them out. A toddler cannot get a device by himself. They can't. They don't have money. They don't have a way to get to the store. I don't know, maybe some kids learn how to put things in Amazon carts way too young. I hear about that too. Just, it's on the phone. They figure out how to like add things to the cart. But truly, children don't have access to purchasing without the parents having something providing that opportunity. So children can't just go buy devices. They can't go to the store. They can't drive themselves to the Apple store and go get the latest iPad. They can't do that. So they're depending on us. And if we're the ones handing these out to them, then we have to take a look at why we're doing that. Why are we doing this? What are we feeling? And what are we thinking that is allowing us to create this pattern and to create these conditions for children? Because they're not doing it themselves, but we as parents are not setting limits and we're handing it out. So why is that happening? How are parents feeling? How are parents thinking? I think that as a parent, as a mom, this is totally normal, totally natural, that we can be afraid of conflict. We can be afraid of the embarrassment of some kind of uproar in a restaurant or at a basketball game or volleyball, whatever you're going to. We have a lot of sports at our house. And because my kids are in a very wide age range, then I had children in high school when I had babies and toddlers, and then young children as they're getting older, but still I had older kids who were in high school, middle school, and games, and a lot of times, because my younger children were little toddlers and babies, then my husband and I would take turns and just stay home with the little kids. That was our solution. Or other times I would bring books. I'd bring a notebook. I'd bring something to draw and color. And it's tough. It is tough trying to keep them satisfied and contented and interested in something while an event is happening. And that can be in the car, that can be in a restaurant, that could be in the grocery store, in a pickup line. I understand. I have been there with kids crying, someone getting car sick and throwing up. I mean, just name it. It's happened with my kids. So I understand why the phone would be handed over to keep them calm, keep them quiet. I understand. And there have been times where I've thought, we have like 3 basketball games in a row. Yeah, this time I am going to bring an iPad. They can watch a little show together. But I really can only think of maybe 1 or 2 times that I've done that over years and many, 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 many games. And we've driven across the country many times too in summers. And again, we're not usually, I think there have been a couple times we've let them have some game time. We pass it around because we had 24 hours in the car. But for the most part, we listen to audiobooks. We do games looking out the window, I Spy, license plate tag, like alphabet, naming, finding the alphabet in the signs. So, yeah, so we do a lot of that. But what is the reason? I keep coming back to this. What is the reason that we are handing over the phone, handing over the iPad? But when it's consistently every day for even short drives, short periods of time, and so what is it? Okay, so I think there is some sort of maybe some fear of that I'm not going to be able to keep my child under control. I'm not going to be able to keep them content, keep them quiet. I think there's a little bit of fear. There's also some social anxiety. And we don't want to cause a big disruption. We don't want to be, we don't want people looking at us. We don't want to be judged. So we have some insecurity, I think, sometimes. And I've been there. I totally understand. I mean, just last week, my 2 younger kids, 8 and 10, they jump out of the cart, running around the corner of the house to try to be the one to get to the mailbox first, and they collided into each other, like arms and legs tangled up, fell on the ground, both got hurt, both got to screaming and yelling at each other, and it's your fault and whatever. And I was like, oh. This, hello neighborhood, here are my children. We just got home. Can you hear them? I understand the embarrassment. Uh, it's not pleasant. But then what is our thinking? What is our thinking that's creating these feelings? And also, I think, like just wanting to hide from conflict. So I think this is a little bit of a flight mode nervous system response. Because when we have any sort of unpleasant, what people might call negative emotion, our nervous system is activated into fight, flight, or freeze. And so we as parents, I think that we hand over devices most likely when we're in flight mode. We're wanting to avoid a conflict. We're wanting to avoid our children being disruptive or wiggly or antsy. We're wanting to avoid a social embarrassment. So I really believe this must be more of a flight mode thing, that we're handing it over right away, right away. But what we're doing is creating that expectation in our child's brain to have a device when there's a time to sit and wait and watch and just be there and be bored. And so they're not learning how to work through boredom to get to creativity. So if you bring activities, bring something for them to do, especially manipulative, if they've got something that they can squish, they can mold, they can build, bring a few Legos in a box. There's so many things you can do that can help kids to stay entertained. And if they're bored, it's okay. But I think what we're trying to do is avoid having to do some of that extra work for us to try to help them through their boredom. I think that sometimes it's very much our own unwillingness to be uncomfortable and to be what's the word I'm trying to think of, inconvenienced. I don't want to be inconvenienced. But we are the parents and they are children. They're never an inconvenience, though sometimes meeting their need can feel inconvenient. But when we are a parent, we have an ongoing obligation. So it's not like we clock in and clock out, we're always clocked in. So if there's a need that arises, it's not an inconvenience because it's not making us clock back in. We're already clocked in all the time. Our child is dependent on us. So I think that when we our subconscious thought, I think our subconscious thought must be along that line. I felt it. That's why I'm sharing it today, because I know this. I've been it. I feel it. I don't want to be inconvenienced. I want to be able to sit here and enjoy this game. I don't want to have to do extra thing on the side to keep my child contented and interested in something and focused on something so that I can still be here and watch this game and support my other child who's on the court. I don't want to be inconvenienced. I don't want to have to get up and take them out and play with them and satisfy a need that they have. So I think there's a real disconnection from our role as a parent when we quickly try to pass them off onto something else and have that device fulfill what really we're supposed to be doing. And what if they were able to have that interaction with us? What if they could? What if they could learn from us ways to manage boredom? They will be that much more resilient and able to handle school and all the boredom that happens there. If they're waiting for something for a workshop to complete, other people are still working and your child is done, what are they going to do? If they don't have a dependency on a screen, they're much more likely to be contented to wait. And yes, children are built differently. Every child is unique, but there is definitely going to be a greater challenge for your child if your child is dependent on screens and has that brain wiring dependency. Not just, oh, I like it and I want to see it, but there's a dependency and there's a need and there's an anxiety when they don't have it. That's the thing I'm worried about. So the thought, I really believe this is not what we're we're not likely to be thinking, I don't want to be inconvenienced. But I think that's the underlying belief that we're operating with. I don't want to be inconvenienced. I don't like being inconvenienced. I don't want to give up my comfort. I don't want to have to respond to my child. I don't want to deal with the fighting. If kids are fighting, no, it's not fun. I don't like it at all either. But I think if we just hand out devices in order to avoid sibling conflict, they're not learning how to resolve conflict. They're just missing out on opportunities to learn how to resolve conflict. And conflict is part of learning and negotiating and communicating, finding out what's useful, what's not useful, what's effective, what's not effective. So children fighting isn't a sign of bad parenting necessarily. It's a sign of children being children. And so if you are eliminating their opportunities for conflict because they get in the car, you hand them each their device, put on their headphones, ignore everybody, they're missing out on natural, normal human interaction that is not pleasant for parents and might feel inconvenient for you. Ooh, it's tough when kids are fighting. I get it. But listen to the inner narrative. What are you really thinking and believing? I don't want to be inconvenienced. All right. So the pattern of a parent giving a child devices, overly handed out, overly dependent, we have to take back our responsibility and our role and our resilience, that we can handle our child's behavior that is unpleasant, embarrassing, and inconvenient. Be willing to take that on, take that role on as parents, and then we'll be more likely to be that resiliency factor in our children's lives and help them to avoid that screen addiction. So look at that. So we've got, I'm in flight mode because I don't want to be inconvenienced. I don't want to be inconvenienced by their fighting, their squabbling, their crying, their demanding. So I'm just going to, because I have fear and insecurity about myself and anxiety about what other people think, then I'm just going to hand out the device over and over and over. My child is going to become dependent on it. So how do we change this? We don't want screen addicted children. We want them to be alive and immersed in the real world. We want them interacting with each other, interacting with us, interacting with bugs and worms and pets, and looking at the natural world. We want them drawing pictures and reading books. In another episode, I talked about some good screen time limits. Like, okay, here's some good limits, how to set limits, and that's great. But again, it comes back to us as parents taking full responsibility for our role and not passing it off to something else because we don't want to be inconvenienced. And when you think about the brain, so when we as parents are feeling we're in a state of safety, that our higher brain is able to think, we're able to process, we're able to analyze our children's behavior, we're able to look at them and say, they're just normal kids. They just need to learn some skills. They need to learn how to communicate. They need to learn how to negotiate. They need to learn how to problem solve and to resolve conflict. These are all really important skills, and they can start now at 5 years old. They can start learning those skills that will help them in their adult life. When they're not on screens, they will have those opportunities. And we as parents need to decide right now, while we're in our state of safety, just take that breath and decide right now, I'm the parent. It's my job to interact with my child. It's my job to decide and figure out a better solution for how to get the kids out the door in a more timely manner, and to be more efficient and more effective, be better planning ahead so that we're ready. And so we're not like trying to get dressed and hollering around the house like, okay, get dressed, get your shoes on, and getting mad when they're not doing it because we're not ready, we're behind, we're not prepared. And we're not going to be on our A game all the time. So we have to learn how to also be patient with ourselves. We're learning skills too. Parenting is skill learning, skill implementing. We're always learning. We're always trying to figure it out. Okay, so when it comes to smart devices, if we are going to have a child who is engaged with the world, this is the result we want. That does not mean they're behaving perfectly. That means they're behaving like a child. Sometimes they get upset. Sometimes they get bored. Sometimes they're hungry. Sometimes they're jealous. They want the toy someone else has. They are angry and they're going to hit. These are children. And this is what children do. Doesn't mean we allow it and love it and endorse it. We teach it. We teach a better way. We help them to calm and regulate themselves. And we've got to be the regulated person first. So if we want our child to be engaged with the world, then we are going to limit the devices. We're going to set limits for ourselves because it's not really limits for our children, it's limits for us. Okay, I'm only going to hand out the iPad for 30 minutes on a drive that's at least 3 hours. I mean, you can make this up. This is your choice. You're the parent. So we are going to have limits for ourselves. I need to make dinner. Um, but I can't just put my kids on the TV every time I need to make dinner. What could I do instead? Okay, I could have one of them help me with this task. I could have another one come and do this task. We can make it a game. I could play with them before I start cooking. So then they're already feeling somewhat fulfilled and they'll continue playing. Most likely they'll play better when mom or dad or someone has shown interest in them and spent time with them. So limits set by parents for the parents. And you might say, oh, once a week, yeah, sure, I'll let them watch a TV show while I make dinner. That seems pretty reasonable. That's a minimal amount of time. That's not all the time. That's not more above average. That's fewer, right? So in my house, my kids don't get to turn the TV on unless they ask. And they know I'm going to say, oh, did you make your bed? Did you do the checklist? Which includes making your bed, doing a house job, making sure homework is done. Have you tidied up the living room? Are your shoes put away? Like there are things that they know to expect because I'm the parent and I'm setting the limit for myself and for them. That I'm setting a limit for myself that I'm not just going to turn the TV on all the time to make it easier for me to make dinner. I'm setting a limit for myself because their wellness is at the end of the day the most important thing. I want them to have optimal wellness. So I'm going to set the limits, and the limits are for me so that I don't become dependent on the device. Okay, so if I'm going to set the limits, and I'm going to need to feel really confident about who I am as a parent. I need to be creative, that I can find other ways to engage my children and guide their development instead of just like, this is too much, just go watch TV. This is too hard, just get on your iPad. I don't want to deal with conflict. But when we feel confident as a parent, I can handle it. I can handle it when my children are children. I can handle it when my toddler is a toddler. I can handle it when my 5-year-old is a 5-year-old or my 10-year-old is a 10-year-old. And I can handle it. It's not going to be fun. It's not going to be so easy. And I just feel like, wow, that was a day at the spa after I've had a whole day of like, whew, having to negotiate big emotions and help my child regulate. And I have to step out and like, whew, take a break because this is starting to wear on me and I'm starting to get upset. That's me setting limits for myself as a parent. I'm going to set limits. So when I am confident and creative, I'm going to set limits for myself, which also means setting limits for my kids, and I'm going to help my children to be engaged. But what do I need to be thinking about smart devices or about children's behavior? I mean, you could put either one up there in the cloud. We could do this again with that other thought, or that other circumstance. But for this circumstance, smart devices, my thinking is I can handle it. I'm the parent. Smart devices and TVs are fun in moderation. I definitely love having a big TV. I love gathering to watch a show together. I love to watch a movie together. It's so fun. I love it. So I'm not anti-TV. I'm not anti-screens, but I am definitely pro limits and taking responsibility for myself as a parent. Smart devices are fun when in moderation. Okay, so I really want you to consider what it is deep down inside that might hold you back from being willing to engage with your child and mentor them and just hand them a phone or hand them a device. And the more that it becomes an expectation for your child, it's also an expectation for yourself. Oh, where's the iPad? We can't leave the house without that because my child can't handle himself and I can't handle him, so we have to have the device. Parents are training themselves as well to abdicate. They're beautiful, brilliant capacity as that child's parent to support that child and to help that child nurture and grow and mature and learn healthy limits, healthy boundaries, healthy ways of living. We need to take that responsibility back as parents. So much of this is about us as parents. And when we think to ourselves, I am capable, I can help it, I can handle it, I can handle the inconveniences, because really they're not inconveniences, they're my children. And my children are being children. And they don't have the skill set that I have. I'm going to help them learn that skill set better when I'm interacting with them and when I'm calmly modeling and listening to them, asking them questions, trying to figure out what is the problem, why are they upset, and then finding ways to help them regulate. This is very fulfilling. So when you shift out of feeling like an unempowered parent who has to have devices because I don't know how to do it otherwise, you shift out of that into a really powerful being. I have such power over myself. I have such power and influence to console my child and to help him or her to feel safe in the world and to learn how to handle being bored. They can do it. They can figure it out. They have such beautiful magnificence and capacity. So when you have other questions for your child, always ask, is this really about them or is it really about me? If I'm not happy with their behavior, what is my behavior? And how are my patterns creating their patterns and influencing their patterns? So we have maybe set things up. Maybe we've done too much of like passing off our responsibility onto these devices to just try to keep things numb and calm and inoculated. But when we take that back and say, I'm willing for there to be some chaos, I'm willing for it to get a little bit noisier, a little more, a little more conflict, a little more human interaction, I'm willing to have that. So that in the end, it's a long game. You got to play the long game. My child will be engaged with the world and feel comfortable and safe. And that anxiety can relax when they're not so worried about where's my device. I need my device. I need it right now. They'll do better at school. They'll do better in relationships. So thank you for joining me today, and I hope this helps. I hope that you have questions and you want to share them with me in the comments or private message me. My name is Michelle Cox. You can find me on Facebook at Michelle Cox Mindset Coach. You can also visit my website, michellecoxmindset.com. And please look up the other podcast episodes on YouTube, on my YouTube channel, Michelle Cox Mindset. So I love to help parents. I love to help children learn how to interact and have stronger relationships, help children to have healthier mindsets and more resilient nervous systems, and to have a beautiful future. So let's do it together. Let's help create a beautiful world by taking it all on, stepping into our role as parents. All right. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you next week.